So it took 24 hours of taxis, flights, and layovers to reach Spain, a land that is full of cafes, wine, and rich with culture. It's also overflowing with plenty of wildly curvy roads to explore. It was on these Spanish highways, 3,600 miles from home, that served as our testing ground for Triumph's all-new Street Cup motorcycle. Spurgeon here with RevZilla, and today I am in beautiful Seville, Spain. And what a start to the new year. I'm in a new country riding not one but two new motorcycles, the Triumph Street Cup, and I'm going to get to ride the Triumph Street Scrambler. Now both of these bikes are going to be derivatives of the Street Twin platform, which is a bike that I got to spend 5,000 miles ripping around on last year, and I did a full ride review of that motorcycle. So if you're not familiar with that bike, make sure to check out that review on YouTube. And while you're there, make sure to subscribe to us so you can keep up with all the content we have rolling out, including the first ride of the Scrambler, which I'll be tackling after I'm done with the Street Cup. Now there's three main similarities I want to talk about in relationship to the Street Twin for this motorcycle, and that's going to be the engine, the suspension, and the brakes. The engine is going to be plucked right out of the Street Twin. It's that 900cc high torque engine, liquid cooled 270 crank, and it's got so much character. It's definitely not a spec sheet engine. You look at the specs and 55 horsepower, 59 foot-pounds of torque doesn't sound like much, but that torque hits in down low right around 3,300 RPM, and this bike is absolutely it's a blast. It's that bike you take down your favorite back road or your favorite stoplight to stoplight stretch. Now the suspension on this is going to carry over a little bit too much from the Street Twin as far as I can see. The engineers that I talked to said that spring rates and damping rates have been changed, but it still doesn't feel adequate for a rider of my size at 215 pounds. I'm left just wanting a little bit more. And my guess is Triumph is going to be aware of this already, because I snuck a look at the accessory catalog, and they already have a Fox shock setup available for the rear of this motorcycle. So combine that with the aftermarket that's been developing some pieces for the Street Twin, and you're going to be able to mod the suspension if you so choose. Talking to some of the other riders, there was some dissenting views on the brakes. I like these brakes. They're the same twin pot Nissan calipers up front and in the back. 310 mil rotor, 255 rotor out in the rear. And I like them on the Street Twin. I like them on this bike. Some of the riders said there wasn't enough brake. Personally, I disagree. I think for a bike that comes in 440 pounds dry, you know, 2-finger pull slows this bike down pretty impressively. It's not going to be a 1-finger Brembo pull, but you got some pretty solid brakes here, and that ABS works well. It engages without unsettling the rider. So those are your three main similarities. Again, engine, suspension, brakes. So how does the bike differ? First and foremost, it's going to be the looks and the ergos. It's definitely more of that cafe look, but with that comes an ergonomic change. You no longer have the more upright seating position for the handlebars. Instead, you've got this club-in style bar, which puts you in a little bit more of a tucked position. Now the problem I have here is they didn't really finish the job. The foot pegs aren't going to be rear sets the way I was expecting. They pretty much sit in nearly the same position, if not the same position, as you would find for the Street Twin. And I found myself through a couple of these corners, even riding on the balls of my feet, dragging the tips of my toes and scraping up the foot peg a little bit. So I could see a set of rear sets in my future as an aftermarket accessory. Lastly, the fit and finish of this bike is worlds ahead of the Street Twin. It feels like a much more refined motorcycle. I would say this probably has more in line from a styling characteristics of the Thruxton as it does to the Street Twin. You've got the tack kit up there, you've got the fly screen, the seat cowl, different colored exhaust. The bike just looks, you know, more part and parcel what you'd expect from its more expensive older brother. Even the two-tone paint on this, very nicely done. And really that's where I see this bike kind of falling into the market. So there were a lot of riders that were fans of the original Thruxton 2015 model, that old 865 engine. And when the new Thruxton came out, Triumph addressed a lot of, you know, desires of what riders wanted for that bike. Bigger engine, bigger brakes, bigger suspension. But with that came a bigger price. And I think there were a lot of riders left behind that were fans of the original Thruxton, but could no longer justify the increase in price at $12,500 or $14,500 for the R version. So the fact that this is going to come in around $10,500, you know, for a market that is looking for something a little more cafe racer oriented, I think is going to be appealing to a lot of riders. Now there are a ton of facts on this motorcycle, so if you want all the details, head over to Common Tread and check out my first ride review, where we get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty. And also make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube so you can keep up with all the reviews we have rolling out at RevZilla.com, including that first ride review of the Scrambler, which we're going to hit next. So I want to thank you for joining us in Spain today as we rip it up on the new Triumph Street Cup. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.